You look back on it and realize what a close call it was for everybody, not just for him, but for us too.
Now for an update on some breaking news we told you about last hour. At least 4 people hurt in a house fire in Willowick.
There's going to be a male inside this house that they're unable to get out. He's disabled.
They put out over the radio that there's a disabled male trapped in the house.
And Miss Haley was in the front yard. I believe she was holding her dogs. And we walked up. She said, he's still inside. And that's when, all of a sudden, wow, we got to go. We
both went in and you realized we couldn't see and immediately started coughing from all the smoke. It's true what they teach you when you're a kid. You know, you get low and crawl under the smoke. That's what I did. And basically played a high stakes game of Marco Polo. And so Chris was trying to pull him. I started grabbing Chris's duty belt and pulling Chris, and finally when I got to the door, it was just such a relief that, all right, we're here. We got this at this point.
2 police officers were injured while rescuing 2 people from inside that home. Those officers suffered smoke inhalation.
I don't know if it was quite like a movie. I know I spent a few minutes out in the front yard gagging and coughing and trying to get the smoke back out.
They did give us the rest of the day off, though.
Yeah.
But Chris deserves all the credit. He's the one that got in there and located him.
Yeah, you would have done the same thing.
No,
I mean, it's...
Yeah, you got him before me, but locating him was huge. And he did an amazing job.
See you again.
We saw them at the council meeting, I think, a week or 2 later. It was a good feeling to be able to talk to them after the fact and you know, hear their appreciation.
The gentleman got off the elevator, and it was his father, and he turned to me and goes, "Thank you for saving my son." And that's when it really hit me, like, wow, this really made a difference. Yeah, I don't consider myself a hero. It's what we signed up for, and you never know what the next call is. And that particular day, it was a life and death situation.
Any of us would have, I think, reacted the same way that they would have gone in and done what was needed to be done.
The neighbors started pitching in by bringing out blankets. The whole team effort, and we were just the ones that happened to go in.
I don't see that I'm a hero whatsoever. I went to school to be a nurse, and I think that's just what nurses and people do. You help other people that need help, and especially working for the VA. We don't know all the veterans, but I believe we owe all the veterans that we see. I went to Puerto Rico on a 2-week deployment to assist the local VA down there to help the veterans out after the hurricane. You can see pictures all you want, but it's until you hear the people talk, you see the sights, and you're down there that you really experience what a disaster truly is. We drove throughout the entire island, going to all different shelters looking for veterans. The veterans were displaced, they were missing medications, and they had medical issues. So we went and found them, got them supplies, did a brief medical assessment on them. We made sure that they had their medication as well, and then we got them back to the VA if they needed urgent medical care. The road conditions that we encountered were nothing like I've ever seen. There was plenty of times we had to stop, move debris out of the road. There was no GPS because all of the power and satellites were not working at that time, so it was very hard to navigate exactly where we were going. Even though there was a gas shortage, you could stop, roll down your window, asked, "Hey, I need to go find this place, where do I go?" Any single person on those streets would say, "Hey, you know what, follow me." And they would drive you right there to exactly where you were going. The most giving people and helpful people I've ever met in my life. It was very sad leaving. I think everybody that was down there wanted to stay for longer because there was so much more that we could do. But we knew that there was other people that were at the VA and other volunteers that were ready to come down and take our places. So it's not like we were completely leaving, but it was very difficult to wrap up and come home. When it comes to disaster, no matter what you do, I believe there's always something that you can give back and donate your time to be able to assist people. The experience in Puerto Rico was absolutely life-changing. It's a moment that I don't think I'll ever forget.
I would be haunted if I didn't just at least check to make sure that somebody who looked like that wasn't doing okay. We have a cheese factory, Miscellany Dairy Products, and I was crossing the bridge from the factory to a visitor center where my office is. And I took a closer look out the window, and there was a man laying on the sidewalk. He had no pulse. His eye color was gray. His skin was gray. I honestly thought that he had already died. And even one of the bypassers said, "Don't touch him, they'll sue you." And so I looked at him and I said, If he sues me, I'll be so happy because that means that he's alive. We have several defibrillators around our facility, and thank goodness it's also at just the right eye level. I'm short enough as it is, but so it was just perfectly. So every day I walk in, I look right at the defibrillator. At the time, to be honest, I've never used a defibrillator and had no idea how to use the defibrillator. And I just opened it up and it started speaking to me. Within seconds, it said, there's no life signs, step away from the body. It counted down and gave him the electric shock. After that, I went over and started administering chest compressions, and you could see the light come back in his eyes. So I just continued chest compressions. When he started to come back, I felt definitely a moment of relief. The idea that I saved someone's life is really special. The reaction of people afterward let me sort of realize what I had done, because at the time it didn't feel like I did anything special. I was so focused on trying to help him. To be called a hero is a little uncomfortable for me. I feel like I did something I should have done. Everybody should have American Red Cross CPR training.
First thing I did, I think I called my daughter. She saw it on the news, and I guess she saw me and she was like, "Dad, are you at Classic BMW right now?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Oh my God."
I was just like, wow, they're shooting. I was in shock, basically.
Walling said the customer, 30-year-old Timothy Scott Schmidt, was agitated and police were called to help. The man fled, officers chased.
We heard the cops yell, "Gun," and then instantly we heard gunfire. One of the bullets actually came through the windshield next to the car that I was standing next to. There was gunfire all over the place, just randomly shots through the car, different parts of the building. It was pretty intense. As quick as it happened, the gunfire ceased. The older officer said that, I heard him say, "I'm hit," and then there was another younger officer on the ground with the suspect, and he said, "I'm hit." I grabbed the handcuffs off the ground. I moved the officer a little bit so I can get to the suspect, rolled him over, and I put the handcuffs on him. I've had a lot of time to rerun everything and, throughout my mind. And the younger officer that was on the ground with the suspect, his gun was still holstered. He could have grabbed his firearm and continued to do what he was doing. Once I got home and I sat down with my daughter and she really reflected on what could have happened, and it was just like, wow. Yeah, that could have been me laying on the ground. I don't consider myself a hero by any means. It's just a guy trying to do the right thing, help somebody that's hurt.
I'd rather stop, make sure everybody's okay, than next day read that something terrible happened and I drove past and did nothing. I was driving home from work on my way to pick up my kids, and there was an accident. Mother and her child were involved, so I stopped to see if I could help because there was nobody on scene yet. I keep a little basic first aid kit in my car. I was actually holding the child as the second accident happened. In the opposite northbound lane, a car hit a stop car going full speed. I ran over there with the officer to see if she was all right. A patient put her arm right through the driver's side window. She was bleeding pretty profusely. I didn't have anything else in my kit, and there was nothing there I could use for a tourniquet and nothing in the car, and the only thing I could think of using at the time was the string for my scrub pants. I knew my pull string for my scrubs was thicker than my shoestring, and if I spread it out enough, I figured I could cover enough area to where I'd be able to do the pressure enough to where I could control it. So I just used that real quick and did a loop and pull method and just pulled as hard as I could to control the bleeding. I've heard MacGyver a few times. I don't think of myself as a hero. I think a lot of the other people receiving this award are definitely heroes. I just acted like how I was taught to. What I did is something anybody can do. They offer classes that are free to take, like Stop the Bleed, that'll teach you how to apply tourniquets and address any kind of lacerations like that. And I still made it on time to pick up my boys.
No, I don't remember anything. I had no warning signs. The only thing I know is what Jan told me happened afterwards. I don't remember going down. I don't remember laying there.
It was the scariest thing I've ever seen. He was still awake and aware, but totally incoherent, gasping for air, grabbing at his throat. And then he passed out. I started yelling, you can't do this. You can't do this. This can't be happening. And started doing CPR right away and talking to him the whole time. You're telling him, you can't leave us. We've got 8 kids. We have a daughter who's getting married next year, and I kept doing the compressions and the rescue breath. But we were in the middle of the wooded area. There was nothing, no trail, no cars going past, no people would be there. And I knew I had to go. And I told him, you better be here when I get back. I ran to the nearest home, which was a couple 100 yards, and I told them, John's down in the woods. He has no pulse, and he's not breathing. They called 911.
First thing I remember is waking up in the hospital and saying, how did this happen?
I was very fortunate. I had just renewed my CPR certification the day before. In the back of your mind, of course, you're hoping you'll never need this. And yet the next day, it was, I have to do this. And besides, I couldn't live without him.
No, I did not give up running. It was 4 months to the day that I had the heart attack. I ran the Rite Aid 10K.
Watching him come into sight and watching him go under the finish arch, and it was just so uplifting. Went up and all sweaty and, and give him a big hug and a big kiss and tell him how proud I am.
I taught CPR probably for 20, 25 years for the Red Cross, and I still don't know if I could have done what she did. So I'll be eternally grateful.